Do you believe in luck?
Absolutely not. The most important lesson I learned in the military, my career in the Army, was to be disciplined. Doing your best, if you don't achieve your goal, it doesn't mean anything. Well, my 7 principles are loyalty, duty, responsibility, sacrifice, honor, integrity, and perseverance. I've broken it down to 7 principles. If you live these 7 principles, the chances of you being successful are increased exponentially. Be so exceptional, separate yourself from your peers so much that great people notice you. They come to you. Mistakes are a part of life. If you trip and fall while doing it, you just get back up.
Salut și bine ai venit la un nou episod al podcastului Printre Oameni. Astăzi v-am adus un invitat extraordinar de deosebit și o să vedeți și de ce. Pentru că aduce foarte multă bogăție din experiența lui de viață de până acum. Este fost ofițer și comandant al armatei americane, care între timp s-a stabilit în România. Între timp a făcut și un program de leadership care promite că în 7 pași ne vor duce la o abordare a leadership-ului așa cum nu ați mai văzut-o până acum. Dar nu numai atât, este și profesor de sociologie și coach și abia aștept să-l întâlniți pe Ronald E. Lair. Welcome, Ronald.
Thank you. It's a wonderful honor to be here.
Thank you very much. Before we dive into your 7-step leadership program, I would like you to share with us about your journey in Romania and your journey in life.
Okay. Well, I had retired and I was looking for a very low-key, kind of relaxed place to retire, and I looked at different places around the world, and Romania caught my eye, and I started doing some research, and I came across Brașov on one of the expat sites, and what impressed me the most wasn't that people didn't complain. It's nobody had anything bad to say about Brașov. Everything was pleasant, and it just seemed like a really nice place. And we came here, me and my family, my wife and my son, came here with 5 suitcases without ever seeing Brașov. We just rolled the dice, and it's been the most pleasant experience that I've had. This has been the most pleasant place I've lived. As far as the people, as far as amenities, it's just a really wonderful place to actually raise a child and to live a relaxing retirement. So it's been fantastic. That's
great. You have a unique experience in life, also by being in a military service, but not only that, also the experience in war. And I would like you to tell us how this experience affected you in a personal way.
Well, I entered the military during the Reagan administration, and as you know, during that period of time, it was the United States against the evil empire, and it was tension all the time, and I felt it was my duty to do my part, to, if need be, defeat the evil Russian Iron Curtain type thing. And I was young, and I continued, I finished college, I was commissioned, as a second lieutenant, and shortly thereafter, the first Gulf War started, and I found myself at 22 years old in Saudi Arabia. And so my training, and because the training is very difficult, it's
I bet.
highly disciplined and very structured and extremely high pressure. And it's almost designed to see where your breaking point is. Mm-hmm. So went overseas to Saudi Arabia during the Gulf War when they finished and Kuwait was liberated. We got back on the planes, and I didn't see any combat because I was a support soldier, lieutenant. I helped with the POW camp, and that was a lot of work because there were a lot of Iraqis surrendering. So it came pretty fast. But I learned quite a bit at a young age as far as discipline and leadership, and learning from my subordinate leaders, because it's strange, the structure in the military. You have a second lieutenant that is in charge of a platoon, and then you have a platoon sergeant who deals with the day-to-day operations. And the lieutenant usually has about 1 to 2 years of experience, and the sergeant, the platoon sergeant, usually has anywhere from 10 to 15 years experience. So it's the smartest thing to do is to get help from your subordinate leaders. I mean, you're their boss, but you're like, hey, can you help me out with this issue? Because I've never seen something like this before.
I bet it was very hard for you to fit in and to manage all the stuff you had.
Oh, in the beginning, absolutely. I was trained to do it, but I had no experience, and reality is a lot different than training.
You were very young, 22.
That didn't help.
I bet.
Yeah, I went with, thankfully I had great subordinate leaders, and was able to handle the hours and the pressure and the need to continually expand our camp. So it was a great learning experience. I mean, it's hard to say that about a war, but as far as learning more about myself and what I was capable of, it was a positive experience, because I had no idea I was capable of doing some of the things that I was being asked to do. Mm-hmm. And in the Army, you can't pick and choose which instructions you follow. You have to follow them all. So if you're not familiar with something, you have to find out somehow. So, it's either keep trying to get it or get some help.
Yes, and there is another aspect. You need to make quick decisions in a war.
That's part of it. You have to. Yeah. You have to be able to kind of clear your mind of everything but the mission in front of you, and that's one of the reasons why I've looked into some other leadership programs, and they say, be emotional. And in my experience, emotion just clouds your judgment. Mm-hmm. Because of the nature of the decision-making process. You don't have time to write things down. And it's a decision you have to make split second. Like, mm-hmm. you know, if a truck's coming towards you, you have to turn out of the way. And that's the kind of decisions we have to make, no matter what age you are. So, again,
it is a battle, after all, between
It's-
life and death.
yes, and, exactly. And, you know, to get the experience to make those decisions, it's extremely difficult. You have to be in a dangerous situation to learn to make those decisions. And if you make a mistake, like you mentioned, it can be the difference between life and death.
What kind of leadership lessons did you learn in military, and what kind of lessons do you share in your program?
Well, when attending officer candidate school, they make it as difficult as possible by applying so much pressure and then expecting you to make a decision. You know, you have 3 people, you know, one in each ear and one right in your face, and they're screaming at the top of their lungs, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Why aren't you doing anything? So, you know,
It's hard to clear your mind with all the noise.
exactly. And so, you know, it was a great program because even though at the time you're completely miserable, you pick up afterwards what it was for. And it was for reacting in a chaotic situation. And if you try to use emotion, or I've heard the word intuition thrown around a lot in some of these other leadership programs, it takes too much time. You have to make a decision based on your training and logic and reason, and have to make it as quickly and as effectively as possible. Through my experience, I've found that I've broken it down to 7 principles. If you live these 7 principles, the chances of you being successful are increased exponentially.
Look, I read during my teenage one book. It called Magician, and it was about the war, in which one mentor learned the soldier to find their intuition. You know, it was one thing that is called you should have pick a tooth with poison, or the other one without poison, and only intuition can help you choose the right one. You know, it was an exercise. It was explained on the book.
I've never heard of that, but
that was for I think it was for Russian soldiers.
okay.
Yeah.
We call it situational awareness. It's not really intuition. It's situational awareness. Slang for it is keep your head on a swivel. You know, be aware of your environment, notice details, pay attention to everything going on around you, and you know, be able to spot things that might be out of place. And that, I guess that's the closest I can think of that I've ever taught my soldiers to intuition, is just be aware of your surroundings. You know, everything that's around you, especially in a combat zone, is a potential threat. So you have to be able to spot key little details that the average person may not notice.
How did this situation affect you on the personal life? You know, that situation that you had to be every time conscious about every danger in these surroundings.
Well, and some people look at this as a negative, some people look at it as a positive. In the military, it was definitely a positive.
That's for sure.
It kind of made me a little, what we call OCD, obsessive compulsive. So everything I own is in a certain place. I can tell you where everything I own is off the top of my head, because it goes in the same place every time. I had a roommate that used to mess with me by like moving my keys a couple inches, and I'd walk by and move them back. So, you know, it really made me
very well structured.
Structured, creature of habit, if you like, but you know, very, very organized, and that's one of the keys to making life simpler, is being well organized. I mean, if I ask someone, can you bring me my keys? They're going to be, you know, 8 inches from the end of the table, off to the right side, and I know exactly where everything is, what everything does, and it made life simpler. So
every experience in life comes with a great lesson. What lesson did you learn, especially during the military?
The most important lesson I learned in the military, my career in the Army, was to be disciplined. When I was in my 20s and even into my early 30s, I competed in powerlifting, and I had a coach, and it's something where it's very individual. It's not a team sport. It's you
and the coach
and the weights, and you either complete the lift or you don't. There's no subjective aspect to it at all. So, you know, and to get better, you had to be disciplined. You know, you have to go to the gym. You have to do the work. You have to sweat. You know, you have to earn it. There was a instance in the Army where I was not built to run. When I was on active duty, I was about 5'9", 210 to 220 pounds, with almost zero body fat. So very muscular, takes a lot of oxygen to fuel that. So, but we have what's called a physical training test. Every 6 months, they test your physical readiness by doing push-ups for 2 minutes, sit-ups for 2 minutes, and a 2-mile run that's timed. Well, I found I wasn't very proficient at running. So, of course, I got 100% in the push-up and sit-up category, but I was getting 70 and 75% in the run category. And I mean, even pushing myself. So I finally came to the conclusion that if I want to get better at running, I have to run. So
exactly,
earning what you get, and I know this sounds like a very harsh lesson, but doing your best and this is going to sound extremely bad, but doing your best, if you don't achieve your goal, it doesn't mean anything. I've never seen an award for good job, you did your best, or anyone up on an Olympic podium for, hey, you tried the hardest, so we're going to put you in second place. It's all about goal orientation and getting results. And it took a few tries, but I finally got hundreds straight across the board. I got 100% on the run, but it was after a lot of hard work.
I would like to hear from you, because you were in a situation that put you to make decisions right away. And I would like you to hear your perspective from for what is right and wrong, and what is good or bad.
In the situations I was in, now in Iraq, it was a different story because we were fighting another uniformed army. In Afghanistan, it was really hard to, the lines between right and wrong, between moral and immoral, were kind of blurred, because we were fighting against so many groups that it was hard to know who the enemy was, and they would actually use children as combatants. And now, is it right to shoot a child? Well, if he's pointing an AK-47 at my head, yes. If it's just some scared child trying to hide, no.
I think it's very difficult in this kind of situation to pick up the right
again,
choice, the moral thing to do.
Yeah, in Afghanistan, the lines were so blurred because there was really no rhyme or reason to it. I was out of the field and on a forward operating base, and the insurgents were right on the border of Pakistan. From Pakistan, the insurgents mortared the mosque that we had built on the forward operating base for the Afghans that came to clean and do simple tasks because they needed a job. We supplied the ones that weren't a danger with work, and their own mosque, they mortared it from over the border of Pakistan. So it was kind of confusing, and as a U.S. soldier, I can't put myself in a position where I can be injured to go in and help. We had a fire department on that operating base, but I couldn't do anything because if I got injured, doing that, then I would be in a world of trouble.
Did you had lessons that helped you to choose in this kind of situation, limit situations?
We had very little training because it was such a new experience, and it was, it wasn't just one group. You didn't know who was part of the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah. You can go on and on. It was just bunches of insurgents coming in and deciding that they're going to fight. So, making those decisions was on a case-by-case if a 12-year-old is picking up a rocket-propelled grenade,
this is a danger, right?
Correct. And if you're within sight of that child, and you know that the people downrange from that grenade are going to get hurt, and they're your brothers in arms, they're your fellow Americans, you have to make that decision very quickly that, Lord forgive me, but I have to do this. And you have to eliminate the threat. So it really was it's so hard to explain because everything was different each day.
Yes, but lessons that you've learned during these difficult times, I think helped you build the program that you built it about leadership. Oh,
absolutely. The 7 principles, they apply to any field, really.
Also in business and everyday life.
Absolutely. And, I've heard some of these other leadership people throw around the whole, surround yourself with great people. To me, that's not leadership advice.
How do you find great people to surround you on your
That's the problem with the advice. My thinking is, be so exceptional, separate yourself from your peers so much that great people notice you. They come to you. And I had an experience doing that myself. But if you establish yourself as an exceptional employee or soldier or police officer or firefighter, the great people are going to seek you out. Your deeds are not going to go unnoticed because these kind of entities, business, law enforcement, they're always looking for better leaders to put in higher positions. So I think it's a waste of time trying to go, and surrounding yourself with great people, I kind of don't know what that means because most great people have already achieved some form of success, and I couldn't see myself walking into Elon Musk's office, throwing my feet up on his desk and saying, hey, Elon, you've done pretty well for yourself. Let's talk, So
I'm here to help you.
Yeah. So it just, I really think it's opposite. You be the exceptional person. You be the standout within your peer group, and other leaders, so-called great people, they're gonna find you. And again, I've had experience with that myself.
Do you believe in luck?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because God has made a plan for us, and I'm not going to get too religious or anything, but I believe that God has a plan for us, and that because we have free will, we get obstacles put in front of us, and we have to choose how we approach and overcome, or if we overcome. Some people, when they are, faced with an obstacle, they'll just give up.
Why do you think they give up?
Well, they'll just stay in the bad position that they've been put in. They'll just
in their own mud.
Yes, yeah. They'll just stay in their own knee-deep, sewage. But some people will overcome the obstacle. But as far as luck, it's not. Luck means random. I don't think things in this world are random. I think everything happens for a reason. So that's just my opinion.
Or based on science. Or based on science.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking about cards. You know, it is a science over there. So if you want to play cards on great.
I'm terrible at poker because I don't have.
I'm terrible too. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, everyone they say has a tell in poker. I don't know what they're talking about. I'm not a card player.
Okay, let's go right now to your 7-step program. Which are the 7 principles of your program which you built?
Well, my 7 principles are loyalty, duty, responsibility, sacrifice, honor, integrity, and perseverance.
Can you tell us a little bit more of every principle?
Well, loyalty is a certain way that you show people that you're there for them no matter what the circumstance is. You remain by their side regardless of the situation. Duty, that's the thing that you're faced with that you have to do. There's no choice. Thomas Jefferson said that if your government becomes tyrannical, it's your duty to overthrow it. Not your option, not your choice, it's your duty. So responsibility is very simple. I mean, you do what you say. You keep your word, you do what you say you're going to do, and when given a task or given a mission, you don't need a lot of supervision. And no leader wants someone on their team that has to constantly be watched and supervised and led by the hand somewhere, because it takes too much time.
And energy.
No leader can micromanage and do everything. So sacrifice, I try to tell people, and especially my soldiers, and even people in business, sacrifice is a temporary thing. It's just a temporary situation that you have to endure to get to your ultimate goals. A lot of people look at sacrifice as bad. I have to give this up. Oh, I can't do this. But if you look at the positive aspect of sacrifice, you know it's a temporary situation, holding pattern to ultimately reach what your actual goals are. Honor, of course, is act accordingly. Don't do anything that you feel would cause humiliation or discomfort to yourself, your family, your unit, your country. And I wish more people in higher positions had more honor. Integrity, that's basically, simply put, integrity is what you do when nobody's watching. You do the right thing. You know that you're going to do the right thing no matter what the situation is, even if no one's looking. You're not going to go take a nap when you're supposed to be working. You're not going to steal that money that's just sitting there and nobody's around. So, having integrity just means that you're always going to be striving to do the right thing regardless of what the circumstances are. And perseverance is the ability to continue beating at that wall, you know, just to keep hitting that wall until it falls. A good example of perseverance, and I think I told this to one of my friends, and she was blown away. Have you ever heard of the product WD-40?
No.
No, it's like a rust and anti-moisture spray. It's to prevent rust and things like that. And it's water displacement, and then it's -40. Well, water displacement is pretty easy to explain, but the 40 is how many tries it took them to get it right.
I understand.
So that's an example of perseverance, because the first 39 attempts were failures. So,
Exactly.
you know, failure is just a lesson that you learn on your way to success.
Yeah.
So,
It seems to me your program has 7 principles that everyone should borrow it or learn it, because they apply in everyday life. Even if you are a leader, an employer, or an employee, it comes with great value.
well,
For me, I think that.
following these principles are a great way to be that exceptional person that gets noticed. No one can, you know, if you're always doing the right thing, you know,
You don't have to. You
don't have to
the
worry.
chance. Yes, but you don't have to the chance to learn something, right? If
Well-
if you don't make mistakes, you don't fail.
oh, I didn't say mistakes.
Okay.
I just said doing the right thing. If you if you trip and fall while doing it, you know, you just get back up. I mean, I've made many mistakes. Just tried everything I could not to make the same one twice. That's all. I mean, mistakes are a part of life, and I've never met anyone that hasn't made mistakes. So no, I would never say it's not making mistakes, because if that could happen, wow.
Yes, you said you had mistakes. You had mistakes, but that you don't regret your experience in war, which is a great statement. But what I'm curious of, do you have any regrets in your life that you wish to switch to make it better?
I can honestly say no. I love where I'm at in life. I mean, I'm comfortable. I have a good family. I have great friends, and to me, it's the best life I can live, because I have a little bit of everything, and you know, it's all, you know, mostly enjoyable. I mean, of course, there's things that go wrong every day. You know, you break something and you have to replace it, and oh boy, that's terrible. But you know, that doesn't mean your life isn't great. So, yeah, I don't regret pretty much anything. Everything I've ever done, right, wrong, good, bad, has been a learning experience. You know, I used to give a weekly a weekend safety briefing on Friday to soldiers. And almost weekly you had to add something because someone over the last weekend would do something stupid. So, by the time you're going a year into, being at your unit, your safety briefing consists of, okay, don't drink and drive, don't swim without a buddy, don't barbecue with gasoline. It just gets almost comical because the weekend before someone will have done something else stupid and you have to tell people, okay, don't do this.
What values describes you the most, and which one of these would you like to share with the public?
Values, God, family, country. It's pretty simple. The things that are most important to me, I have an abundance of. Like I already said, I have a really good family. I enjoy my family. I take my faith very seriously, and I've never experienced a situation, even at my lowest point, where I didn't believe that my faith would get me through that low point. So, it's pretty simple. Just, I believe in conservatism, fiscally and morally. So, I don't believe that the government should be able to do what I can't do, which is spend money you don't have. It's just very simple, down-to-earth things. There are certain things I don't want my son exposed to, and not that I have any kind of ill feelings towards certain groups. It's just that I don't want my son exposed to certain groups and their ideology. You live your life and let me live mine, and everything will be fine. I was in the military. I was in the Army during all three phases of the LGBT. From it being outright banned, to don't ask, don't tell, to outright, you can be who you want to be. And the funny thing is that everybody thinks that this is such a tremendous victory, but nothing changed. Because there are certain regulations in the Army that there are things you cannot do. You can't alter your uniform. So no one can come to work with a rainbow flag on their uniform. If your wife is an officer 2 units down, you can't go
To visit.
being physical with your wife on duty in uniform. You can't have any kind of conversations that are of an inappropriate nature, regardless of your orientation. So nothing really changed. It's still come to work, do your job, go home, do whatever you want.
Yeah. What values do you feel people are losing and they need to reconnect with them?
Well, I think that, and this is more geared towards the U.S. than Romania. I think Romania is on its way, but hasn't gotten there yet. I think that national pride should be more of something in the forefront. Like I said, during the Reagan administration is when I entered the military. Well, you know, say what you want about the man, but Ronald Reagan always made you feel special and exceptional and, you know, very proud to be an American. And I think the United States has lost that. And there's so many different groups screaming for attention that being an American doesn't even break the top 5. So I'd like to see a little more national pride and go back to being one America. I think it was Teddy Roosevelt that said, you know, we'll take anybody, just understand that you're no longer from, you know, you're no longer in your country, you're gonna become an American. Mm-hmm. You know, and I don't think people are doing that today. I think they're creating parallel societies within countries and for the sole purpose of staying separate and not participating in the American experiment. Mm-hmm. So just being proud of your country and showing a little national, I guess the only word I can use is pride, and you know, I think that's missing in a lot of places now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I would like to shift gear a bit. Mm-hmm. How would you describe yourself as a parent?
As a parent?
Yes. Did military service influence you on your parenting today?
Somewhat. Mm-hmm. And I know this is going to sound very cliche, but with my son, I'm firm but fair. Because I'll remind him of things that he is being lax in his responsibilities, and he'll say, "Yeah, Dad, you're right." You know, and instead of one of his chores is taking the trash down. Mm-hmm. And so I won't directly approach the subject, but I'll ask my son, I'm like, do you see anything wrong in here? You know, he's like, I know the trash. Like, okay, well, why don't you fix it? So it's, you know, I want him to learn lessons, but not necessarily the way I did with the low crawling in a parking lot in the middle of the night, or, you know, doing push-ups until I couldn't do any more. Mm-hmm. And then the drill sergeant saying, are you tired? And thinking, okay, he's gonna let me go. And he's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm tired. All right, I'll turn over and do sit-ups. So, you know, I do want my son to be disciplined, but I want to lead him in the direction of self-discipline.
Do you see your son as a great leader?
Absolutely. He has, for his age, he has a very forceful personality. He's not afraid to speak his mind, depending on the situation. Mm-hmm. But I've introduced him to some of my friends, and even they're impressed with his level of knowledge and maturity. He knows things that I don't even know. He's become a Romanian history buff. So, you know, he'll tell me about things that happened in Romania, and I'm like, really? Because, I mean, as you must obviously know, we didn't learn a lot of Romanian history in U.S. schools. Only we knew it was part of the Iron Curtain.
What do you think are the biggest gaps in the leadership today?
That's a very difficult question. I really think that leaders are not held accountable as much as they should be. And that's why they're deviating from these principles so much and doing the things that they're doing. Then when getting caught outright, they either play the denial or the, I'm sorry, get over it game. And, leaders think, the problem is that leaders think that they're there to tell you what to do and control you. And that's not the case, not with a good leader anyway. With leaders that want to control their population, they're not looking for citizens, they're looking for subjects. So, they can be the, monarch, the king, and all his subjects must bow down. That's not how it's supposed to be.
How it should be?
Well, I believe the most important document ever written is the U.S. Constitution. And many people get confused and think that the Constitution is the government giving you rights, which is just the exact opposite. If you read the Constitution, it specifically says that these are the rights that God has just, bestowed upon you, and that the government cannot interfere with any of these rights. So it's not granting of rights, it's the government, it's the limitations on the government. That's why there are so many Democrats and liberals that absolutely despise the Second Amendment. And they say silly things like, well, it was written when, the only thing people had was muskets. Well, that's the same thing the military had. It was exactly the same. It's not for hunting. A lot of politicians get up in the House or the Senate and they bring a magazine and they, no one needs 30 rounds to hunt. Well, it's not about hunting. The Second Amendment wasn't written for hunting or any of those things. It was written because, again, going back to what Thomas Jefferson said, if the government becomes tyrannical, it's your duty to overthrow it. And as you learn by what's gone on in Venezuela, all these dictatorship countries, that's the first thing they do is say, we're going to take care of you, don't worry about it, give us your guns.
Give me your power.
Right, and then they start shooting you in the street when you're upset with something and protesting. Maduro in Venezuela did that just a couple of years ago. So, the Second Amendment was written for the sole purpose of keeping the people, keeping their freedom and their rights.
What advice would you give to young leaders today?
I would give young leaders the wisdom to lead from the front, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. You're a leader for a reason, and if you're not out in the front, you're not leading. And I would say to people who are wanting to lead effectively And with all fairness, to be visible. You know, even if you have to put off your work and stay late, get up out of your chair and go and talk to your team. Even if it's just, hey, how you doing today? You know, is everything going well? Good. But, you know, a lot of leaders want to sit behind a desk and fill out their forms and check off the boxes and be done with it. And that's just not leadership. You have to be active. You have to be proactive to be an effective and a respected leader. You know, if you come to work and say, I haven't seen my boss in like 6 months, then he shouldn't be your boss. You know, and then that's what I would tell young people is be proactive, set the standard, make sure you're not telling people to do things that you either haven't done or wouldn't be willing to do yourself. Because that's hypocrisy, not leadership. So it would be, you know, stay active and stay visible. Make sure that, you know, your subordinates know you're there for both discipline and encouragement. So, you know, people know that at the very least, my boss is going to know what's going on.
Ronald, thank you very much. This has been an incredibly inspiring conversation. Would you like to share something with the audience today at the end of our podcast?
Well, I will be scheduling appearances throughout the country with my partner and doing seminars to try and educate people in a different way. What we're trying to do is break new ground by taking a step back. You know, the leaders of the past, the General Pattons, Napoleon, Alexander the Great, these people led a certain way, and I think that's being lost now in a lot of these leadership programs that are more geared towards self-help, and that's great. But I've looked into the background of some of these leadership experts, and there's no leadership experience. It's, you know, different backgrounds that never held a leadership position at all. In addition, I've collaborated with a best-selling author to release a book with him, and I believe the website, and if I'm wrong, I'm so sorry, www.leadershipmadeeasy.com or .net. I don't know. But like I said, we just I want to see better leaders. You know, I think today's leaders are failing us. They're not, again, the accountability issue, the transparency issue. Why wouldn't a leader want to share everything about themselves if they're not afraid of certain information becoming common knowledge? You know, when I was in a leadership position, I was an open book. You know, people would ask me, did you ever take any drugs? No, I've never had a drug in my life. Oh, so you were all straight? No, I used to get drunk a lot. You know? So, but in my 20s, I mean, today a night of drinking would probably cost me a 3 or 4 day hangover. So it's just not something I engage in. But I'd just like to say I'm really so pleased to be here in Romania. I'm pleased to support the tradition, the values, the conservative nature of the Romanian people, my friendships, whether a best-selling author that I never would have met, and members of parliament that literally I respect so much, because we're cut from the same mold, God, family, country, and this has been a place where everything is so positive that when something negative does happen, it really is just a little speed bump.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Thank you for sharing your 7-step leadership program. I hope you have a lot of students to your program.
Thank you.
Dragii noștri, dragii mei, eu mă bucur că v-am prezentat astăzi un subiect atât de interesant și o nouă perspectivă a leadership-ului de astăzi, care nu este doar de astăzi și care nu ar trebui să se piardă totuși, niște valori care cred că ne va ajuta pe fiecare dintre noi în viața noastră de zi cu zi și în cea de business. Dacă v-a plăcut acest episod și găsiți că îl face inspirațional sau aveți multe de învățat, vă rog împărțiți-l și share mai departe și de ce nu, dați un subscribe la canal pentru a ne ajuta să creștem împreună. Vă pup, vă îmbrățișez și pe data viitoare!